Welcome to the online course on discourse-oriented pedagogy. Dear teachers, we were discussing some of the classroom practices. We started the discussions yesterday, and I believe these discussions will be carried forward in the coming days as well. Now, before going further, I would like to recapitulate what we have done so far. These are the outcomes of modules 1 and 2. Identifying classroom issues and challenges. Identifying the causative factors responsible for these issues. Experiencing 3 pedagogic tools, namely interaction, self-assessment, and feedback. I will briefly explain what these tools mean. Consider first interaction. We have already discussed that DOP interprets interaction as dialoguing with the learners, and we use different kind of linguistic strategies, for interaction. These include reporting, or asking for agreement, asking for opinion or giving opinions, seeking confirmation, or asking for explanation, and so on. When interaction takes place, by virtue of this interaction, we will be able to create a shared platform of understanding of the various concepts that are dealt with. The next tool is self-assessment. Recall, we administered a tool for self-assessment at the end of the transaction of each module. And the self-assessment tools make use of certain rubrics. In the classroom situation, we go for self-assessment or even peer assessment at the end of transacting each module. Could be a module related to reading, maybe a module related to constructing a discourse or performing a drama, whatever. Let me clarify the notion of a module. If you go for dictionary meaning, you will find that a module is a component. But pedagogically, we can define a module as an activity package that culminates in the production of knowledge or the construction of knowledge. You may have different activities. For example, the learners may be watching a video, maybe looking at a picture, or talking about an experience. So, like these, different activities may be taking place in the class. While we engage the learners in these activities, several constructs will be formed in their minds. All these constructs help the learners produce a nameable discourse, orally and in writing. Remember, each discourse has a set of well-defined features that could be hierarchically placed. We'll have a discussion on this at a later point. You have information. All the textbooks contain information. When your mind responds to this information, reacts to this information in its own way, by invoking certain cognitive abilities, certain constructs are formed in the mind. For example, imagine that you are reading a passage and then you get some data and your mind goes for certain generalizations, and these generalizations are checked against fresh data. that will lead to further generalizations. Either you reject your earlier generalizations or validate them. So based on the information, when the mind works on it, what comes out is called knowledge. Information per se by itself is not knowledge. Now, this is what happens when the interaction takes place, and this is what happens when we carry out different classroom processes, like children working individually, sharing in groups, making presentations, the feedback questions posed, everything will help them to develop certain constructs in the mind. We are yet to know how interaction is to be carried out in different contexts. I believe as we go forward, we'll come to know about that. Now look at the outcomes of modules 3 and 4. Identifying the types of reading passages in the textbook. Enumerating the course expectations of the participants. And also getting familiarized with the course objectives and the expected outcome. We saw that the NCERT textbooks contain different genres of text that can be categorized as narratives, descriptions, dialogues, poems, letters, and so on. Some of our friends said that we may not have these types of text in most textbooks produced by private agencies. All textbooks, whether published by NCERT or SCERTs of the states or private agencies, contain printed matter, but everything that is there in the textbooks cannot be called authentic linguistic input. For example, the grammar exercises or the vocabulary exercises, or the practice of certain sounds, and none of these things will make authentic language input. The classic example of what you cannot call as authentic input is the A for apple kind of lesson. Now this point will be appreciated only when we understand what language is. Yesterday we had shared a link with you to watch a video talk by leading cognitive psychologist of our own times, Steven Pinker. At least some of you may have watched the video. Pinker talks about 3 misconceptions about language. Remember, these misconceptions are reflected in the designing of the textbooks that we are using at present. Look at the slide. So these are the misconceptions about language. Language is written, language is grammar, and language is thought. That means language is not written, language is not grammar, and language is not thought. Let us listen to Pinker.
Before we begin, it's important not to confuse language with 3 other things that are closely related to language. One of them is written language. Unlike spoken language, which is found in all human cultures throughout history, writing was invented a very small number of times in human history, about 5,000 years ago, and alphabetic writing, where each mark on the page stands for a vowel or consonant, appears to have been invented only once in all of human history by the Canaanites about 3,700 years ago. And as Darwin pointed out, children have no instinctive tendency to write, but have to learn it through instruction and schooling.
Pinker has given us a theoretical postulate, namely, language is not written. Now, this is a piece of information. Right now, it is not a part of your knowledge system. When will the information contained in this statement become your construct? To put it in a different way, how are we going to develop our own knowledge construct from this statement?
If you implement it.
Yeah, explain further. What do you mean by implementing it? How? At least mention one strategy. Others also can supplement.
When you understand and relate with the real life.
You relate it with the real life.
One of our friends says that we develop constructs when we understand the text and relate that to real life situations. Okay, now I think you understand little more that language is not written. Perhaps you can come out with more ideas.
Language is not only we speak or we write. It's we think, we talk to ourselves, and we are not writing to ourselves and using that language too.
Yeah, but you have expressed a wonderful idea. When you are talking about language, it is more than what you read and what you hear. Okay, but still keep thinking. Okay, you have seen your English textbook. Okay, any English textbook or any book written in English language. By looking at this, one of the pages of the book, can you decide the language? Are you getting my point?
Actually, we can see the letters and it is written in Roman. We will say it is written in English language.
Wait. Okay. So you are seeing something written in a certain kind of form, a certain kind of script. Okay. So you are equating language to the script, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
by looking at the script, can you decide that this is English language? Anybody? By looking at the script.
Not exactly, but when we will read it, and if there is a meaning,
read silently or read aloud.
Loudly. Yes, sir.
Exactly. So this is the implication. Okay. Only when you listen to somebody reading the text, you can say, okay, he's reading an English text. Because there is no one-to-one correspondence between language and the script.
Now, this is the fact. You can use any language and write it in any script. There is no one-to-one correspondence between language and the script. For example, consider the Konkani language. This language does not have a script of its own. It is written using 5 different scripts. It is written in Devanagari, in Kannada, in Malayalam, in Persian and Roman scripts. Look at the word Konkani written. The first one is in Devanagari, second one is in Kannada, third one is the Roman script, fourth one is Malayalam, and the last one is Persian. Now these scripts are written, by speakers in their native dialects. However, the Goan and Truss dialect is the Devanagari, use of the Devanagari script, and that has been promulgated as standard Konkani. interestingly, there are some languages that do not have a script at all. For example, there is a Turkish language called Kasdili. It is not even spoken but whistled. And through different styles of whistling, they can communicate almost anything. Let's watch a video. There are several languages that use the same script. Consider, for example, the Roman script. Several languages such as English, French, Danish use the Roman script. Look at the slide. There are several languages that use the same script. This sentence is in English language and the Roman script is used, and you can see that the other three sentences are equivalents of the same idea in French, Danish and Spanish. All these languages are using the Roman script. So the point is that by looking at this a text in print, you cannot decide for certain that this is a certain language.
Got my point? Some of you are sending WhatsApp messages using English letters. Yes or no?
Yeah, but language is Hindi.
Language is Hindi. So there is no match between the language and the script. And some languages do not have script.
We have more examples. Till recently, the Kalahari Bushmen's click languages did not have any scripts. Now recently, people are trying to develop scripts for the Bushmen's click language. Watch this video.
Hey, cái xe huy của ska, cái cuộn dạo, ngay khi cái mấy giờ click ngồi đây, tôi cài cao, chẳng có qua sử dụng cũng cao gì, cái anh tôi khả năng gì, ở cái số gì, hay huy của ngài của đa, cái gì ngài của đa nhưng, cái khẩu đa cái đa na, cái biểu này là khả năng, cái khả năng cái khả năng cái tâm ngài tôi có, cái này khả năng cái những cái là nó là số. cái嘢是可以成咁樣，搞我佢話烏咗啊，都話個手段，都是揸個會，做個些會嘅呀，個會個魚啊出個雞，我揸個唔搞個成日個咁嘅事，我咁樣寫個咁嘅我咪魚啊，
Many languages follow the Persian script. Now, can you mention some languages that use the Persian script? Yeah. Urdu is an example, Arabic is another example, and there could be other languages. Both Arabic and Urdu are written using Persian script. Now let me come back to my point. only when somebody is asking you this kind of question, or you yourself are asking these questions, the process of transforming information into knowledge, takes place. It happens only when you ask questions. It means constructs are formed by asking questions, by responding to questions. Either you are asking the questions to yourself or somebody else is asking the questions to you. In the classroom context, the facilitator will be asking questions. I think we don't need any more examples to convince the point that there is no one-to-one correspondence between language and the script. You are using it almost every day. Maybe to send a message in Hindi language, you are using the Roman letters. So by using English alphabets, English letters, you are not going to change the language. It remains as Hindi. You cannot create an SMS language. Sending SMS language in a certain way, it's a writing convention. Or let us look at another example. Have you seen any books in the French language? See the screen. What are your observations on this text? What script does the French language use?
It looks exactly the same kind of thing. When you open it, it looks like English text. So teachers have this misconception. By simply looking at something, you cannot say that this is this language.
At the first glance, it appears that this is a text in the English language, written using cursive script. But when you read it aloud, you know that this is not English, but the French language. So teachers may have this confusion. They may tend to equate the script to language. So now we are discussing these points, and by doing so, we are now involved in the process of constructing knowledge from the given piece of information. And what is that information? Language is not written. Now this is not enough. We have to think deeper and deeper. An important pedagogical question arises. If language is not written, why should we begin teaching English with the alphabet? This happens even in pre-primary classes like LKG or UKG. You have seen primers where discrete letters are introduced, probably with the help of some pictures. Have you noticed that? What is more disturbing is that teachers start teaching the mechanics of writing. Big letter, small letter, cursive letter, and they're introducing the script even in LKG and UKG classes. Let us reflect on how we learned mother tongue. What did we learn first? Did we learn how to write or how to speak? Did we start speaking or did we start writing and then started speaking? Every human child is genetically programmed to speak a language, and no child is genetically, biologically programmed for writing a language. People talk. Kids talk. Even before they start speaking in the language of the speech community, they communicate. Let's watch a video. how is that? The two kids are in an argument, and they're trying to convince one kid is trying to convince the other. Okay, so they speak, and this is what happens. So to introduce a new language doesn't mean teaching the script, but allowing children to speak the language, and this is what is needed in our classrooms.